that that your name just popped up.
Okay.
You could probably check into that later to see if it's your camera or something.
No.
But your voice will still be heard. Boom.
Okay. Well, that's fine. What once you
God
hear it.
answers prayer in the morning. He answers prayer at noonday. He answers prayer at nighttime. He listens to what we say. Now life brings us happiness. Life brings us pain. Life at times so challenging. You realize it's not a
It's not
game.
coming up, Wayne.
It's
So
not coming up?
whisper a
Yeah,
prayer each
I mean, when you
morning.
try to put the image on, I'm not seeing it.
Please whisper a
No.
prayer for
Take it off.
me. Whisper a prayer
I know.
each
That might be on
morning.
your side, you know.
I'll whisper a prayer
Well,
for
I'll
you.
probably check my side as well later on.
I'll whisper.
And then around the Bahamas, it's 9 a.m. If you're not at your desk right now, you know you're late, right?
That's Dr. Sharice
Please
now.
don't run no
Okay.
traffic lights, don't break no laws, stop speeding, take your time, drive to your destination on time, making our way into the Zoom room with Ambassador Glenn Roll and this guest. Good morning to you.
Good
Ooh, I
morning.
do
Good
trust
morning.
that we saved some marriages, that we helped to mend some wounded hearts, that we were able to promote wholeness, unity, and love. Thank you so much for locking in. Stay close. For you.
Good morning, Dr. Sharice.
Love, happiness, oh, I'll whisper for you.
107.9 FM, the station for the nation.
The views expressed on this show, interview, or program are not necessarily the views expressed by the ZNS Radio Network and by extension, the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me, Doc?
The station for the nation 107.9. Good morning. It's a beautiful morning. Yes, it is Wednesday, October 8, 2025. Let's check in the Zoom room with Ambassador Glenn P. Rule and his guest this morning. Let's see what they cooking this morning. I hope they're burning up no egg. You know, simple as egg is. I wonder if Ambassador Cookie might be burning up egg this morning, burning up water. Good God Almighty. But we
Uh,
say good morning to you. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, Doc. I wouldn't allow you to see my plate. This is Wednesday short morning, so I just scrambled something and put it together, you know?
The same thing.
So I wouldn't show that to you, man. Listen, you know what it is you had those folks doing this morning. I hear Mama B and 19 and the rest of them. What happened? I missed the front end. You had everybody crying. What's going on?
How do you miss the story?
I caught the last piece of it, right? I got a general impression of a couple, a spouse, and
Yeah.
I gathered that, you know, by the time they did get to connect, it was too late. Somebody had gone on the next side, so you know,
What? No,
I,
you
I, I'm just saying, I didn't get the full sense, but you know,
mixed up the story. Listen, the story this morning was about a husband and a wife, right?
mhm,
They were in love all these years, but when he found out that his wife was ill, she
mhm.
became with cancer. He decided, look here, I make it in my mind, I ain't dealing with this.
Wow.
Yeah, I love her, but this too much. This is too much emotional strain. There's too much stress. There's too much money I gotta spend. There's too much time I gotta. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So emotionally, physically, financially, he just thought about becoming drained or he
Mm.
become depleted of his finances because she's now sick with cancer and he got to deal with this. All
Wow.
right. So he's making up his mind. In order to deal with this, he got to save himself from becoming overwhelmed. He goes to his attorney, gets he begins to gets his divorce papers. He makes up his mind he's going to go to her and he's going to serve her with them.
Wow.
So before he makes his way to her, he sees a photo of their memory, the memory of their wedding, and he forgot about her deteriorating health, and he began to remember the wedding. He remembered the wedding day,
Mm.
love that they had, the vows that they
I get
made,
it.
the kind of life that they built. You want me to say more?
No, no, I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. I
Yeah,
now understand.
yeah. And so by the time he was about to give her those papers, instead of seeing her for what he thought it was, he finally saw where he loved her, but he could love her again, and he could make this thing happen, and he would be with her for the rest of their lives. And that's
Wow.
exactly it. Before he
Wow.
confronted her, he decided we're gonna change this whole story. We're gonna change this narrative, and I'm going to be determined and spend time with her and give her the love, comfort that she needs, and that's exactly what he did.
Wow, because I mean, just to think of, I mean, had he not seen that image, just to think about, somebody going through, and then at the same time, a divorce paper is a part of that. That's wow.
That's a heavy thing.
Yeah, that is a heavy thing, right? So you would think that at times that these would be more the time when somebody say, I gotta be there with them
Yeah,
through this process,
yeah.
So. But continue to do well, Doc. I'm sure, as Mama B said, you wake up everybody this morning with that. So, shout out to everybody. Good morning, Inspiration 107.9. This is Wednesday. This is short flight day Fort Lauderdale to Nassau. We're up in the air and down, and we have one of the persons who helps to navigate that for us in the person of Wayne Neely. We're having a Met conversation, a weather conversation, Doc.
Good
Mr.
morning.
Neely, how are you, sir?
I am good, and you?
Yes,
How are you doing?
yeah, we're doing pretty well. We do apologize for our camera, your camera or mine's, but nonetheless, for the purpose of this exercise, hearing your voice is an important part of it. You used to be my neighbor before you went. Anyway, let me not say which gate you went to live behind, but
Yeah.
but how have
Good.
you been?
I've been good, I've been good. God has been good to me, so I'm blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in case people don't know how far back we go, not only neighbor, I had the privilege of I know who bed I took when I went to South Andrews and slept in it. I don't know if it's
I believe that might be in my bed you take.
I don't know if it's your bed or Clement
Yeah.
or Angie or Royan, somebody
Yeah.
bed I took. But you guys have been family to us, and now Neely gets to be the officer in charge of Exuma.
Yes.
And so my folks told me that he was down there recently, and so we do wish you all the best. But we're here to talk to you about some of the things that has been happening. Please introduce yourself to the Inspiration 107.9 family,
Yeah.
please.
Well, I'm Wayne Neely. I'm an author of 17 books on hurricanes. I'm also a meteorologist at the Department of Meteorology. I've been there for about 35 years. And I'm
Wow.
in my twilight years of the department. So I'm looking forward to retirement soon, pretty soon. I'll be joining the ranks of you, Glenn.
Oh
Retiring,
man.
but yeah,
Listen, your voice and your expertise will be needed even the more, particularly when we look at what is considered to be the upbeat of challenges, so to speak. But give us for a short while. You have rightfully pointed out that you're the author of how many books?
17.
Wow. How do you do that, my brother? I mean, what? You spend nothing else but writing?
No, you just find that you once you have a passion for something, you're gonna find the time. You're gonna make the time, and that's a good thing. When God gives you a purpose, you must fulfill that purpose, and that purpose is gonna be inside of you until it's released to the world, and that's what I'm doing.
Wow, wow, man, I certainly want to commend you for that. I believe I saw you with a photo You were at ZNS yesterday or the day before?
The day before, yes, with Gandhi. Yes, yeah,
And
Gandhi.
and the amazing thing about it is I did not know that you were there. I just thought that, hey, it would be good to have a conversation with you. Even though this is short Wednesday, I don't suspect that we will wrap up today because I do think the work that you have done and continue to do by way of the Met Office is an important part of it. What caused you, and I take it all seven of those books were hurricane related?
Yes, they were all hurricane related. Bahamian hurricane, most of the Bahamian hurricanes.
Okay. What caused you to go in that area? What it is that you wanted us to be exposed to?
Well,
7 themes a lot, but what caused you to
well,
go
the
in that?
first book I wrote to kill time, and that was done. And I I grew up in the community of Southern, just hearing my parents and my grandparents and other persons in the community talking about the 1929 hurricane. And whenever they got together, whenever people got together in the community, whether it was after church or whether they come visit their home, they always talked about the 1929 hurricane.
Mhm.
And when I became a meteorologist, it piqued my interest to find out why the storm was so great. And as I started to investigate the storm, I found it was more compelling than I realized. I
Wow.
understood, I now understood why they were talking about the storm. They often spoke about the storm in awe, and with amazement and how deadly and how impactful it was. And it was a 3-day storm. It lasted for 3 consecutive days. No
Wow.
storm in the Bahamas before or after. It was like that. We had Dorian, lasted for about 2 days, about 36 hours. But we've never had a storm lasting more than 2 days, and this storm lasted for 3 days. It was a Category 4 storm, and it killed 142 persons, and it was so deadly. And 95% of the churches in Nassau were destroyed. All the churches in Andros were destroyed, and most of the homes were destroyed. All the churches, Zion East Street, there was only Zion East Street. St. Agnes Church was destroyed. St. Matthew's, uh, Trinity Methodist Church, they were all destroyed. Salem Union, which was downtown at the time, was destroyed by that storm. And as I started to write about the storm, I realized how impactful it was. It impacted the Bahamian society so much that to this day, when I interviewed those persons from 2000 to 2004.
Mhm.
Glenn, that was the storm occurred in 1929, and when I interviewed those persons, many of them still cried as they
Wow.
released the story. So that shows you how impactful those storms, what that
Wow.
storm was to them. And as I started doing that storm, people started telling me you need to write about the 1926 hurricanes, which affected more islands. And as I started writing, and then next thing you know, it became addictive, and I have my new book that's coming out in a week's time, the Great Bahamian Hurricane of 1933, when
The
we had
great,
5 hurricanes in
the
one
great
year.
Bahamian what?
Hurricanes of 1933.
Uh-huh.
It was
Wow.
the busiest season until 2005, and that storm, that season produced 5 hurricanes that impacted the Bahamas, and it devastated the Bahamas. So
Wow.
that's my new book. That's what I'm writing on.
Well,
And
Wayne, I mean, in fairness to you, I'm almost certain that we're not going to do justice by way of 1 minutes conversation. I do think there are other aspects of it. Maybe for an example, it's amazing that you would pin the destruction of churches in the same breath of a hurricane. Why did you give focus specifically to that, or you just found that to be a part of the destructive part of what hurricanes can do?
churches were an integral part back then. The churches play a big role now, but back then it played a central role. And everyone on Sunday, everyone was in church, or everyone was in church on Sunday mornings, and people worship the churches. They were so compelling that all the people got together after the storm destroyed the churches. The first things that were rebuilt was not their homes, were the churches. They rebuilt the
Wow.
churches. So that's how important they saw the value of church was to the community of those at the time. So that's how important it was. And the carpenters would get together, and the masons would get together, and they would all rebuild the churches back first. And after they finished building the churches back, they'd go back to go to one house after the next, because they didn't have insurance, didn't have anything. So you had to build, you had to form a community, and the community was more knitted together now back then than now.
Wayne, when I asked you to have this conversation, I had absolutely no clue of the lessons that were embedded in those storms. And already you are opening up such a conversation that looks deeply within our very core in terms of who we are. There's a community element that you've already addressed. There is a sense of priority that you speak of in your story. These are just my takes from it in terms of people then who saw the church as such an integral part of community building that they saw fit to first build a church
Yes,
before
that's
they build
correct.
their home. Man, I just think this is a lesson for us to understand, to hear, to embrace. And then you also talk about the sense of community. So the idea of insurance, because I just had a lady from insurance on a couple of days ago, the idea of insurance and other stuff really was an afterthought. You seem to be saying that your parents, my parents, the parents before,
Yes,
notwithstanding storms, like literal storms, that
yes,
their lives were constructed in such a way that they found a way to rebuild.
yes, they did. They had, and they had no choice. And back then the storms were more deadly too. So, and it was more impactful. For example, sponging was the number one industry in the Bahamas. So a lot of times the persons who would go on the boats would be the men and boys between boys from 14 years, because school ended at age 14 at the time.
Mm.
And so all those men and boys would be on those ships. And sometimes those ships would go down with the storm because they had no idea the storm was coming. Back then, they had no television or radio to tell them the storm was coming. And the trips lasted for sometimes 6 to 8 weeks. And they would go, and if a whole ship went down, the family would suffer because back then the mother had a different role than they do now. Now
Mm.
they find the women out there working and making a living just as well as the men. And in fact, they're doing a better job, and some can argue that they're doing a better job now. But back then, the women stayed at home and took care of the children. And if that man died in a let's say went down in a sponging vessel in a hurricane, the community would get together and rebuild that house back.
Wow.
And after they build the churches, the first thing they rebuild back with the churches. Then they rebuild the widows' homes, persons
Wow.
whose homes were destroyed, and the husband and their children went down in the first ships. The first house they rebuild those houses, and then they would go to the other houses. So it impacted these hurricane impacted this community more than you ever realized. And you on ZNS, Glenn, we have ZNS. ZNS came about not because of we want to find out the news of different family islands. ZNS came about because hurricanes were destroying there were hurricanes destroying devastating the islands, and the women started complaining to the governor at the time, the governor and the King of England, especially the women from Cat Island Cat Island after the 1926 hurricane, the 1926 hurricanes and the 1933 hurricanes. They started complaining that, look, you need to find a way to stop these storms from devastating, because most of the men would go to sea not knowing stuff. The only way you know a storm was coming is when the storm was already starting to feel the
Wow.
impact of the storm.
Mhm.
So what happened? They would, and many men would succumb to the storm because they had no way of knowing once they caught in the storm. If they realized that they would watch the seabirds, but if they have no birds, they couldn't determine that the storm was coming. And then if they had a rain, they couldn't tell whether it was an afternoon thunderstorm or whether it was a rain from a hurricane. And so many of them died. And when they died, the widows started complaining because the women suffered because the homes were not the homes of today are different from the homes of yesteryear.
Wow.
The homes were different, and the women took care of the children in the home, and the men went out to see fish and farm and did that part of the work, and the women stayed at home to take care of the children in the home. And
Man.
so when the man died, they had no way of supporting that family. So they started complaining, especially the women of Cat Island, and they started to complain that, look, you need to find a way to the governor. You need to find a way of getting the news to us at an earlier time to stop these deaths from occurring.
Wow.
And that's when the idea of ZNS came about. ZNS came about not as to inform, to educate, and entertain. It
Mhm.
came about as a hurricane warning station. And in 26th of May, 1936, ZNS came on stream, and it came on after that. And in 1926, you had 258 persons who died in Bahamian hurricanes. 1928, you had about 100 plus persons. 1929, you had 142. 1932, you had 18 in Abaco and several others in other islands. You also had in 1930, you had 48. After ZNS came about, the deaths went from zero, and the only death after that was in dawn of 1960 and Betsy of 65, and I think death toll was one in each one of those storms.
Wow,
So you saw the impact of ZNS
man.
as a broadcast medium. That's the role ZNS came about, and it worked. It came about, and eventually it became an educational station and to inform and entertain as an afterthought, but not as the first stop. That was done to lessen the deaths caused by these storms, by these hurricanes.
Man, listen, you know, this is such a compelling story. All of these are intertwined in your book, right? Even in terms
Yes, they are.
of the history. I mean, I almost feel ashamed because I have to go to my teacher of that, and that's now Dr. Sharice, and you know, and ask her why she didn't give me all of these important information. I have to learn it from a weatherman, but that's all right. But that's
Listen,
all
listen,
right.
listen, let's give it up for ZNS, man. Don't do it. Let's make some noise for the BCB. Thank you so much, Wayne. Thank you.
Listen, information and the difference it can make
That's
in
right.
preserving lives. I mean, Wayne, this is such a compelling and interesting story in terms of lesson. Let me ask you this because we're gonna have to. I don't think it's fair for us to just tease the people and not have an ongoing conversation in this regard. Because when I listen to you, it's almost as if you're saying to us that yes, these were storms. Yes, there were devastation. Yes, things happen. But it almost seemed as if life lessons came as a part of those process. Did
Yes.
you write with the view that these incidents would give us insight, would give us lesson, will provoke us to do certain things to strengthen community, to develop or whatever have you? Did you write with that in mind? It was clearly just to
No,
announce weather.
no, it was just done to write about these storms. And as I started to interview persons, because each of my books, I interview persons, get their recollection of the storms, who experienced the storms in a major way. I went from Grand Bahama in the north to Inagua in the south. I interviewed persons who experienced these storms, the different storms, the older persons, and I found that the older persons they're more willing to share their ideas and their thoughts about these storms than nowadays. And they were and and they said, look, no matter how difficult the storm was, we always bounced back because God was in the midst of the storm. And they said, no matter what, no matter how bad. I said, how did you survive? He said, we had to survive because God was in the midst of the storm and he protected us and kept us during those storms. Said, and sometimes say, look, the Lord give it and the Lord take it, but blessed be the name of the Lord. We always give thanks to God. And
You yourself had I joke about sleeping in one of your beds, but you know, anybody who know the Neely family, I think your mother just celebrated her birthday recently.
yes,
The
2 days ago.
the Neelys, of course, she was also an administrator in one of the islands some time ago. But anybody who know the Neelys, whether it be the Clement Russells, the Royans, the Angelas, the Wayne, anybody who know them from a sense of spirituality. Did
Yes.
you get a sense while you were writing this book? And I say this to you from this vantage point, when you were writing this book, did that surface? That these people were very grounded, rooted in spirituality, a sense of God?
Well, if you didn't get it, then once you start speaking to them, you realize they would let you know their faith was in God, and they talked about the storm, and said how God protected them in the midst of the storm, and kept them safe. You know, because a lot of them actually they had a strong faith in God, and no matter the obstacles that they faced challenges of like. Sometime there was one lady I interviewed. uh, four of her family members died in one storm.
Wow.
And she was to say, no matter what, say, blessed be the name of the Lord, Lord give it, Lord take it. But say, as soon as God, say, I lost four sisters, but right after that, say, God came back and we got four other sisters.
Wow.
And say, Lord provided, replaced those ones that were lost that went to heaven.
Mm.
And yeah, so you saw that their strong faith in God that they had, and that's something that always stood with me as I interviewed them. No matter they went through obstacles, but no matter the obstacles, they had a strong faith and a strong bearing in God.
This is such an amazing thing. Are you considering a movie beyond just a writing book? Because a lot of people learn in the context of what they see. Is there a way these books can be transferred into, and perhaps maybe it'll be good even if you talk to ZNS about it, because after you pick up ZNS in this way, to really go through your document to sort of not so much to relive from a point of regret, but I do believe that we are beneficiaries of a great knowledge of history. The more we know in the context of history, the more it helps to reshape what the future looks like. What do you want people to take away from those books? And again, we're gonna have to come back to just sort of dive
That's
through
no problem.
some more, because we haven't even talked about weather warming and other stuff like that. You seem to be indicating that Dorian was not only the was not the single monster that we face as a nation.
No.
What will you want people to take away from this? We got about 2 minutes to do that.
Well, in terms of hurricanes, I want people to appreciate the impact of hurricanes and the role that hurricane played in our society over the years, over many years. And one thing in my books, I always try to integrate the impact that these storms had on the Bahamian society at the time the storm struck, and the impact that it had after the storm. And that's what I want people to take away from it. And the strength of the Bahamian people, that no matter the adversity, they always found a way to bounce back and stand strong.
Is there a common thread that you realize even in your 17 books? And by 17, that means what, that the amount of storms, or you only choose 17 to write about?
17 bucks. No, there's a whole lot of storms. We had made storms from Christopher Columbus, the Pinter, the Pinter that you're familiar with, the three ships of Christopher Columbus. One of them was lost near Crooked Island in a hurricane
Wow.
and was never discovered until 1986. The Pinter of the three ships of Columbus, the original voyage of Christopher Columbus, that was lost in a hurricane near Crooked Island. That's the first impact. That's the first encounter we had of a hurricane impacting the Bahamas. And I've documented all the hurricanes from that time up to the latest storm with Dorian. I wrote a book on Hurricane Dorian, and that's my latest book.
Wow. But you have one coming out soon.
In a week, yes.
In a week. What are you going to do in terms of that book? I mean, how can people access that? What kind of appetite? I hope that you could even consider yourself that once you say you're going to retire to have town halls and other stuff, because I do think that so much wonderful lessons can be traced or learned in that regard. But persons listening, where can they contact you in the event that they want to learn more?
Well, they can email me, wayneneely@hotmail.com, or my telephone contact is 445-3069.
Say the number again.
445-3069.
When we haven't even begun to touch the surface as yet. I wanted to get into this phenomenon when we hear about climate change, the impact of that. Probably we even want to find out why the Bahamas, what makes the Bahamas that sort of natural attractive, so to speak, to storm. Are there things that we can do to mitigate it? All of those questions, we are hoping that you could be able to provide some answers for. But we're grateful that you took the time, just a minute or two, to sort of set it up. Your final thoughts as we wrap up here on Morning Grace.
Well, I just thank you for the opportunity, and I thank the Bahamian people not only for listening but supporting the books over the years, and I'm grateful to that, and I'm eternally grateful because writing these books takes a lot of effort and a lot of work. But the greatest thing is when your book is appreciated by the Bahamian public, and for that I'm eternally grateful to them for for purchasing the books and supporting the books.
Man, well, we are grateful to you that you took the time out and to learn the lessons and to learn the story. Thank you so much. I gotta
My
go.
pleasure.
This is Inspiration 107.9, a conversation with Wayne Neely, Met Office, a track or trace from Men's Feet have come. Overcoming the storm would be a preacher's way to put it. Have a great day, everybody.
The whole world needs to repent today.
He's coming to Nassau. All are welcome to join Pastor Gino Jennings live and in person as we celebrate our holy convocation at the British Colonial Hotel located at 1 Bay Street, Nassau, Bahamas.
I want to talk to you a little.
This